Istanbul Gelişim University. As Istanbul Gelişim University Aviation Club's instructor, I will be your moderator today. Today is a very special day, as you know. The day is specially attributed to the pilots who safely connect millions of passengers around the world every year. We wish a happy World Pilots Day to all pilots.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So we are hosting pilots today.
Thank you.
So we are hosting pilots today. Let me introduce our guests. Andre Kazakazlu, Aeroflot captain, not here at the moment. Jean Mary Smith, Aeroflot captain, he's not here at the moment. But Claudio Santodirocco, Ryanair first officer, is here. Dardan Zeqiri is here. And Kivanc Senol, Ethiopian Airlines, Claudio Santodirocco, Ryanair captain, and Kivanc Senol, Ethiopian captain, Ethiopian Airlines captain, and Negede Demeke, Ethiopian Airlines captain. But we welcome you all. I am so honored to moderate this event as a candidate pilot. I am a candidate pilot at the same time. We would like to thank you, our guests, for their support in advance. So let's begin with Claudio, Captain Claudio. Can you tell us who Claudio Santodirocco is? How did he reach his current title? Claudio, Captain, can you hear us?
Claudio, can you hear it?
Yeah, we can. We are listening to you.
Me?
Yeah. Can you just tell us about you, who you are, and how did you reach your current title? Can't you hear us, sir?
You talking to me?
Yeah, I am talking to you.
Sorry. I have the connection is very slow. So
okay. I can type for you if you like, sir. Shall I type for you if you cannot hear us?
No. Now it looks like it works.
Yeah. Okay. Can you tell us about you, please? How did you reach your current title? Can you let us know, please?
So first of all, thank you for the invitation once again. I'm glad to participate in these seminars. They are for a huge way of learning as well and knowledge. I promise happy pilot day to everybody once again. I promise I will be short on myself. I will be just giving a quick introduction about myself. I'm not going to be super long. So I am now a first officer in a major European airline, as you said. And I started my pilot career later than normally people do, because I started studying as a pilot, doing the pilot course when I was already 27. So I wasn't one of those kids that they want to become a pilot from the very beginning of their youth. But I was working many other different fields, including economy studies, including journalism. I was writing. But this profession is really something worth to work for. So this is the message I want to give to everybody. I started as a cabin crew in the same airline I'm working now. And I was working as a flight attendant for during 6 years. And then, and in the meantime, I started my pilot course. I finished my licenses. Then I started flying as a flight instructor. After I collected couple of thousands of hours, I joined the airline. So I have an insight from the perspective of the training, and from like a broad situation in the aviation, say, commercial aspects. I also participated in ATC training department in a very famous southern Spanish school called FD Jerez, where I was working as a pseudo pilot for ATC training. So now it's already like a year or so in which I'm fully commercial airline pilot, and I'm also very interested in human factors, CRM, to talk about these topics.
Thank you. We are sharing some of backgrounds with you, sir, because I was a cabin attendant too for Turkish Airlines. I don't know if you can hear me, but
probably it's better if you type.
Right. Okay, that's okay, sir. I wasn't asking. I was just sharing my background. It's very similar to you, sir. I was a cabin attendant for Turkish Airlines for 5 years. Then I just joined in the university education. I'm a doctor now, a professor now. So that's okay if you cannot hear me. Okay. Thank you. So now we are going to move to Dardan, Captain Dardan. Okay.
Okay, I'm still not the captain, but let's say. So my name is Dardan Zeqiri, and in 2018, I got a scholarship from a Hungarian government of $120,000 to study aviation engineering, in the same times to do the integrated ATPL course. And in last year in June, I completed all the ATPL training, and together with AUPRT courses and MCC courses in Hungary, and then I moved to Italy, where I'm living now in Rome, in the capital of Italy, and my application is still ongoing in the company that I'm looking to work for as a pilot. So I'm shortlisted. Hopefully in the near future, I'm going to start as a first officer. But in the meantime, I'm a ground operations supervisor in one of the biggest airports in Europe, in Fiumicino. And I decided to become a pilot because it was something I always wanted. In the beginning, I started to study medicine, but it was something I was pushed from the family, from other factors. And then I saw that everything was going well, but then I understood that, I would like to go what I'm really like for, which it was very hard, regarding the financial issues. But when you have the spirit and when you have the fight eager, so I was fighting, and then I was very lucky to be one of the few people that got this scholarship and did the training for free in Hungary. So yeah, that's me.
Okay, thank you, sir. My favorite city is Rome in the world. I loved, when I was there, I loved the city. And good luck with your career, getting a job as a pilot. So in Turkey, many pilots some of my students are hired, have been hired. So good luck with that. And
thank you very much.
Yeah, aviation actually is getting bigger now. I think you'll be okay. You won't have any problem.
Yeah, hopefully.
Okay. Kivanc Kaptanım, Captain Kivanc. So can you just introduce yourself to us, and can you tell us how you reached your current title? We cannot hear you, sir. I think your microphone is off.
Hello?
Yeah.
Sorry. It's okay. It's okay. Firstly, good evening to everybody, and very happy congratulations to Pilots Day, to every pilots, captain, first officers, all the cabin crew, also who wants to be a pilot in future. And also there is my colleague in there also, Negede. How are you? Captain Negede is there. It's okay, from the Ethiopian Airlines.
Hey, hi, how are you?
Thank you very much. I came back from the Addis Tuesday morning, now the Wednesday, just for my second day, for my GDO today, for my holiday. And I am Captain Kivanc. The Haitian crew says that Captain Kivanci. From the Ethiopian Airlines. I am almost 4 years in Ethiopian Airlines as a captain and instructor pilot in 737-800 NG and the MAX aircraft, and the freighter also in Ethiopian Airlines. Before this one, I am going from now to the past, not coming from the past. Before 4 years, I was in the Sun Express Airlines in Turkey, and almost 8 years in Sun Express Airlines as a captain. And then before this one, at 1991, we are going almost 30 years ago. Now I attend to Turkish Air Force Academy. So almost 17 years I was in Turkish Air Force as a fighter pilot. And I had 2,500 hours in the fighter jets in the Turkish Air Force. And after that, almost in 2012, I joined the civil aviation life. So it's different. I cut my military and then joined the civilian one as a captain. In my aviation life in Air Force, I was an instructor pilot almost 8 years, and then almost now 3 years instructor pilot in civil aviation life. Now I am happy to be with my friends in Ethiopia. It's a very different culture, but it's same as us. If you really join to them, it's very similarity with us. And I have been almost 4 years in Ethiopian Airlines as a captain. 20 days I am in Ethiopia, in Addis Ababa. Now 10 days in my country or another country. Yeah, that's all from me.
I have been in Addis Ababa when I was flying for Turkish Airlines.
Yes, okay.
Oh, yeah, I had some memory over there, and we went to dinner and we saw the traditional dancing. We ate traditional food. It was lovely. One of the places I couldn't forget.
Yeah. It's very, very, very good country. Yeah.
Yeah, it is really. Okay, thank you, sir. So, Captain Negede, it's your turn, sir. Can you just introduce yourself, us, please, and can you just tell the story how you reach your current title?
Sure. Thank you again for having me, and happy Pilots Day to all of you as well. My story would be a typical Ethiopian Airlines pilot story, because the way it works there is normally we're sponsored by the company to start our ab initio classes. So I did my training there with the Ethiopian Airlines Academy, which recently turned into a university now. From there on, I was right away hired by Ethiopian Airlines, where I joined on the 737 as a first officer. Flew there for a couple of years, then flew the Boeing 757 and 767 as a first officer again. And when the company acquired the 777s, I upgraded to the Boeing 777s as a first officer. And then when the Boeing 787 Dreamliner was introduced to the world, Ethiopian Airlines was the third airline, aside from two airlines in Japan, to receive it. So I did a dual qualification on the 777 and 787, so I flew both the airplane. So the way it works at the company is once you're done flying all the airplane as a first officer, then when you go back to being a captain, you start from the smaller ones again. So I went back to the 737, and I was a captain on that. Unfortunately, unlike Captain Kivanc, I didn't get the chance to fly the MAX. That was one of the things I missed. But I was a instructor captain of the 737 as well. Then flew the Boeing 757 and 67 as a captain, as an instructor captain for just about a year. From there on till last month, I've been flying the Airbus 350 as a captain and captain instructor as well. I resigned from Ethiopian Airlines just last month, and I'm currently in the US, joining you guys from the US, joining my family here. And aside from flying duties, I've been also working for the Flight Operations Quality Assurance team as a quality assurance auditor. And we've been following up with IOSA audits, LOSA audits, etc. And that's pretty much it.
Thank you very much. I'm going to continue with you, sir, for the next question, if it is okay with you.
Sure, no problem.
Okay. Can you just tell us what is the key to become consistent at the best in the career as a pilot?
Okay, that's a good question. The most important thing, I believe, is just like any other career, you have to basically love what you do. So that is the most important ingredient. As long as you're happy with what you're doing and as long as you're passionate about it and love it, I think it's a given to be consistently best at your career. One of the other thing that's significant to aviation, I believe, is it's a kind of career where you need to learn every day. By that, I mean, there's no graduating from being a pilot. I mean, technically there is, but we learn every day. I myself have flown for Ethiopian Airlines for over 16 years, going a lot of places, and until the very last time I flew, that was my motto. I learn every day. And when I say learn every day, I believe in having a learning and performing zone. So whenever, for example, when I go for my flights, I start thinking about when I'm driving to work or before that at home, I start thinking about that specific flight. Where am I going to do? Where am I going to today? What's the weather going to be like? What's the autumn going to be like? Are there any country-specific regulations? Are there any flight-specific things that I need to think about, do about? So for me, that time is a preparation time. And during that, if there's anything I need to revise or if there's anything I need to touch up on, I think about that and I look it on. So that's, for me, that's my learning zone. And when I go actually on the flight and when I start performing, that is my performing zone. So once after I'm done with the flight, on my way back home, I think about the flight. And what I usually do is I ask myself, what could I have done better? And in fact, recently, in discussion with the CRM department, the Ethiopian Airlines checklist has been changed, the briefing flow, and at the end of every flight, there is a debriefing flow. And on that part, it allows the pilots, the captain and the first officer, to discuss what things could have been done better. Because no matter how good we think we are, or no matter how perfectly we think we've done things, there's always room for improvement. So it's always good to go back to your learning zone even after your performing zone, whether it's good or bad. Not to beat yourself up or not to tap yourself in the back, but it's always good to see, I could have done that better. And that mindset will add to your learning zone. And the next time you perform and do something, that's going to give you a little bit of a push, a little bit of a learned experience as to what not to do and what to keep on doing. Regarding planning, I believe most part of flying or aviation seriously depends on the planning you have for it. And I'm a big fan of planning. I usually say the 6 Ps. My wife always complains about that. Whenever we talk about it, I say the 6 Ps, and please don't say the 6 Ps. And the 6 Ps is proper prior preparation prevents poor performance. So that's my motto in aviation. So I try to plan and prepare about everything as much as I can, and then that will cover most part of anything that would have been unforeseen when it happens. So always plan, always learn, and most importantly, love what you do. That's what I have to say.
Thank you very much. I learned from you something today too. Really, performing zone and preparation zone, and this separation is just says us everything, you know, as a pilot. So preparation, planning is the most important part for the journey. We are going to make people, how can I say, reach from one point to another point. Okay, thank you very much, Captain Negede.
You're welcome.
Kivanc, Captain Kivanc, Kivanc Kaptanım. I always want to say that, you know,
of course.
Turkish name. I want to say to Kivanc Kaptanım, but Captain Kivanc.
It's better. Kivanc Kaptanım is okay. Hi, Kivanc Kaptan.
Okay, thank you, sir. So, can you give us our future pilots here, candidate pilots, and the same question actually I'm gonna ask you. What is the key actually? As your career, you see, you have a long career as a civil aviation pilot and Air Force. You talk about. Can you give us some key how you become constant in your career, basically?
Firstly, I'm totally agree with the Captain Negede. He explained everything, and just I have to say an additional couple of things. For example, the first thing for me is, yes, you have to study. You have to study more. You have to study a lot. Every time you have to study. You know, I'm almost coming to 50 years old. Still, I am studying. Really, I am not kidding about this one. So, but firstly, you have to love it or leave it. Because, for example, you are sitting down in a table and just try it one night. Or just sit down in the table and just look at your front. It's almost 6 hours, just look at your front, and every 1 hour you can go to the lavatory, take some rest and come back. Can you do it? And after 6 hours, just 1 hour go to the saloon or living room, and 1 hour later come back, and 6 hours sit down in the table again. So this is in a night flight for us. But you have to be always careful. You have to look around your things that is from the outside, inside, your first officers, your cabin on the back. As you know, Hocam Habibe, you are the same. You know the same things. But if you do not love these kind of things, if you do not love the aviation, you cannot do it. This is simple. And after that, if you love it, you have to study it. If you don't study, leave it again. But if you study, and you have to memorize. And after you have to memorize it, study again. This is our life. But believe me, except the aviation, also we have some kind of free times with our families. Also my wife was a captain pilot. And we are talking about every time is the aviation in our home. But also you have to get some spare times, some free times. For you. I'm almost 25 years in aviation, more than 30 years in aviation. I am still making some gym activities. You have to do it. Because if you sit down in a place almost 6 hours or more than 6 hours, even if 5 hours, you have to walk. You have to make a gym about this one. So it's a kind of table job. So you have to categorize your life as an aviation. Yes, we are getting very captains, you are getting good monies, oh, you are going to every countries, but not like that. Also, you have to obey strictly some rules. Other than you can see these countries or you can earn these monies a little time of period. And after that, it's very hard for you. So, as my colleague Captain Negede says that, yes, you have to love it and study it. And you have to really want it. You have to really want it, and otherwise, aviation, yes, if you see an outside, it's very good. But if you come to the inside, you have to obey some rules. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Captain. I couldn't just
okay, thank you very much.
Audio on. Well, yeah, pilots, being pilot is a table work, as you said.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a cabin attendant. I never thought the aviation is a table work, but yeah, you explained very well. It's a table work. You have to sit down for a long time. At the same time, you shouldn't lose your attention. You have to you have to pay attention on your instruments, your passengers, everything. It's a hard job, and you have to love it, as you told. Thank you, sir. Okay, Dardan, Captain. I know you say you are not captain, but you are the future captain, so I'm gonna call you captain. All right. So
okay, thank you.
Can you just tell us, you are a graduate pilot, so do you have any advice to the students who want to be a pilot in the future?
Well, I would say, like the previous captains mentioned, that you need to have the motivation to become a pilot and not be focused in earning money or traveling around, because really being a pilot requires too much preparation, as the previous pilots mentioned. And also emotionally, you need to be prepared a lot, as for example, you need to cope with different kind of situation. And if you are not able to control your emotions, you are not able to make the right decision regarding different kind of emergencies. And also the other way around, like I'm seeing now here in Rome, Fiumicino, we have many pilots that, they don't accept the criticism, which is very important, because criticism is not something personal. It's something that helps pilots, become better in the future. So you should be prepared very emotionally in different kind of cases to accept criticism, to accept different kind of emergency situation, to cope with different kind of emotion to make the right decision. So it's very important, I think, the emotion side for pilots, and for the new future pilot, I would say for them to do a very huge review, research regarding the becoming a pilot, because it's a profession that requires many things, too much studies. You need like the Captain Kivanc mentioned, you need to always study. You need to do the revalidation, re-examination, training every 6 months, 3 months, 1 year. So it's a tough job. So it's not something like you've completed and then you are just flying and that's it. So be prepared for a very tough, experience. So yeah, that's it. What I would like to say to the future pilot.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you. So they have to study hard, as you just did recently. So this is the key for every candidate pilots, and even they are pilots, they have to study hard for sure. Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, Captain Claudio, can you hear us? Are you there?
Yeah.
Okay, so could you briefly tell us about Italy's civil aviation safety culture, sir?
As Italy being a part of a bigger corpus of states that they all share the EASA rules, and in general the ICAO organization, which is the International Civil Aviation organization, right? So what they do is that they promote the improvements altogether, on the aviation side, from the civil point of view, the military point of view, much less, obviously. So it's basically a body of law that include all the countries in Europe, for example. Yeah? So they use proactive risk management, for example. They use the best technology that they have. They have a huge emphasis on training, obviously. They learn through the accidents, because unfortunately many of the new regulation in aviation, as they say, they are written on blood. That's a little bit gruesome to say, but unfortunately it's true. Many new regulations are put in place after accidents. So it's very important to learn from accidents. Then it's important to have transparency when it comes to implement new regulations as well. And in general, at least from my experience as a pilot in Europe, what I see that the airlines, so I cannot speak about the airlines around the world because I don't have that experience, but what I really feel, for example, in my working environment, is that there is no blame when it comes to errors, right? And there is always this focus really on the root cause, on what really happened. So if there is an accident or an incident, doesn't matter the magnitude. It is my instructors and everybody involved in the airline, especially, what they do is they go and they try to ask at least 7, they say, whys. So something happened, why? And then they try to get to the very root cause of the problem. And that always helps and focuses on the fact that we see that most of the times the root cause is the human factor. So the person, the pilot, in this sense, unfortunately. So this is why we are invested in such a big responsibilities. And I really thank all the pilots that spoke before me, because I can't really express in better words what they have said about the training, about how to become a pilot. And I just wanted to add one thing from the point of view that, from my point of view, that the preparation is everything. The hard work is also everything. I personally, especially when I train my young students, it is important in this job to, as Captain Negede said, briefing and debriefing is very important. And I wanted to add one thing. It's important to deal with failure, to deal with a situation in which you actually did make a mistake, okay? In which it happened and right? Or much easier, that sometimes I have my students that they fail their, for example, first solo little exam, so they cannot go solo. So, and I like to talk to them, because in this huge career, everybody who had this long career, like for example, Captain Kivanc, for sure knows that at a certain point you will fail some. And people are, when they start this career, they have this fear of failure, which it has to be addressed better, because that has to do with your own self-consciousness and confidence. So this is what I wanted to add. This was very important from my point of view.
Thank you, sir. I was going to ask you to add something if you wish. Of course, you did. Thank you very much. And
there is so much I could add, to be honest, because it's been explained very, very well from my previous fellow colleagues.
Thank you, sir. Okay, I want to ask. There is so many strikes in Italy. does it affect your operation? I mean, safe. Does it affect safe operation actually?
Sorry, so many what?
Strikes. People just don't want. People work for the airlines, but for that day they strike.
The strikes.
Yeah.
Lately.
Yeah, sorry. It just came to my mind. That's why.
I am dealing with operation. I can talk
I believe
that.
I'm sorry for you. I'm sorry for you. Well, it happened that lately the aviation industry in Italy, which, to be honest, I don't have much experience because I'm working in Italy now. I've been working based in Italy only a few months, because now I'm based in Canary Island, in Tenerife at this very moment. But obviously we fly there a lot. And when I was working there, I realized that the aviation industry had suffered earthquakes. And then there is a huge strain on professionals. And there has been, as everybody knows, Alitalia went bankrupt, and then this new airline. So the whole industry is suffering from, on one side, you have a lot of worker shortage and infrastructure problems. The shape might look strange to say, but the shape of the country makes, for example, the traffic is also an issue there. The terrain, so the country itself presents, challenges for the industry, and is very touristic as well. So, if I have to, sum up everything, is that the stress on the aviation industry in Italy has been too much for what it has been developed. I am afraid that Italy doesn't have that much of an infrastructure to cope with nowadays necessities, I have to say. I've been training and working for years in Spain, and in there I have seen that there has been development in a much more advanced way. But I'm not the person to judge this. I'm saying just as an operator, okay? So I don't have any specific insight.
Thank you, sir. We never forget about Tenerife. That's documentary we always make students watch. And you said the Tenerife. I just remembered that accident, huge accident. Thank you very much. And there is a question for you, sir, in the comment box, if you can see.
Please.
And Isse is asking to pilot Claudio. He's asking to you basically, how was the transformation of being a flight attendant for a time and then switching to pilot? Was that a tough decision? He's asking.
No, it was not a tough decision. I joined the aviation industry through the cabin crew job. I knew basically nothing about aviation before, and I just joined the Ryanair as a cabin crew just because I wanted to travel the world, and then I realized that it is not exactly what it is, as the other pilots said correctly. I was bit by the aviation bug. This is what they call it, I believe. When aviation is a lifestyle, it's not a job. Probably my colleagues also agree. So when you get in love with that lifestyle, then it's very difficult to come back. And then I decided that I wanted to step up and to make it an objective for life. And I sacrificed everything, all my free time, all my money, everything which I had in order to reach there. And passing the cockpit door was possibly my most important professional achievement. And I really advise everybody to go through a job which makes you understand how aviation works, and then you become a pilot. So then you know what happens behind that door. To me, it's really, because when I was cabin crew, I really got to know pilots, even expert pilots, and they were super nice all the time with me. And for me, that was a lesson for life. I wanted to join them because they treated me very, very well. I have to be honest.
You are lucky then. And actually, you didn't hear me before. I was saying we share the same career. I was a cabin attendant for Australians. So I just changed my career to university professor. Now I am taking pilot training. I finished the theory ground training. Now I am expecting for the exam. Then I will complete the 45 flight hours, hopefully.
Nice.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. So I want to ask.
Good luck with that.
Thank you very much. And Kivanc Kaptanım, I want to ask about the work culture in Ethiopian Airlines. Can you share with us how it's in the cockpit?
I was an expat. It means that expat is the meaning that everybody knows that if you are joining in some country, but you are not the citizen of this country, it's called that expat. So expat life in Ethiopia, it's the first when I go there is approximately 4 years ago. It was very hard for me because the culture is different. Because this is the first time that I joined not Ethiopia, the continent is different. Yes, I came from Turkey. Joined Africa. Yes, I see that Africa is a very huge continent, and I assume that we have to get some kind of problems. But believe me, it's almost 3 or 4 months later, I was an Habeshan. Because, we know our cultures in there, and they are very helpful people. If you have a problem, just everybody you can ask, and everybody wants to speak with you in English and outside or something like that. Yeah, and especially for the company, they were very helpful to expats also for us because in every month, approximately 20 days, you are away from your home. Means that from your country, from your family, from your children, from your wife, from your friends, and you are away from them. So. The working environment has to be good for you for joining there. Yes, the first 3 or 4 months it was very hard, especially for the simulator sessions, as Captain Dardan told us that every 6 months you have to join, but if you join the company, you have to get some additional simulator and the ground courses or something like that. And then you can easily start, and you are always let's start as soon as possible for the flight. And after, when you join the line, everything can be uneasy. But we are very lucky as an expat because we are the biggest company that's working in the Africa. Yeah, we are the biggest one. So the safety culture, as Captain Claudio told us before that, you assume that Africa is a little bit a problem with the safety. No, it's totally different when you join there. They have a similar safety culture because you have to join as an Ethiopian Airlines to the ICAO. If you have not this kind of culture, you cannot join to the ICAO. It means that International Civil Aviation Authority, Civil Aviation Organization. So you have to get specific rules. Firstly, you have to, before joining to ICAO in the worldwide organization. So, but now it's almost 4 years. I am very relaxed in Ethiopia. It's Ethiopian Airlines because everything is well organized. Except nowadays is the ground. Because now they are making some additional parts, additional things to the runways, but it happens in everywhere. When you join to the Istanbul airport, you can see these kind of things. But I think now I am almost Habeshan because if you join to some company and many years or something, then you are complaining about everything. Now I am thinking that everything that's relaxed. So because I am complaining about everything with the same as guys. So, as a result, firstly, as I said before, firstly, you have to love the aviation. You have to love the flights. Otherwise, even if you can be in the America, US, England, United Kingdom or something like that, even if you are China, you are getting more money or something like that, if you do not like to fly, if you do not like an aviation shortly, you cannot be happy. You cannot be happy in everywhere. You always complain about something, always a problem about something. Even if you can join to the Europe or something like that, it doesn't change. Firstly, you have to love it. The same as in Ethiopian Airlines is the same. I think it's the answer of your question. I don't know, but
yes, of course. Basically, you are saying that if you love your job, you do the same job in every country.
Yeah.
And
you have to first. You have to love the people also, because we are serving the people. We don't have any holidays, because if we have a holiday, the passengers has no holidays. Because in their holidays, we are carrying them to their holidays. That's why you have to love the people. If you look at out of the window to the passengers, come on, are you coming again? Or something like that. They have to come again because you have to get money because of this one. Firstly, you have to love the people. And then as a humanity, and then you have to love your job also. Because sometimes you are carrying these people at night conditions. They are sleeping. If you do not love them, you are always complaining. They are still sleeping, I am not sleeping or something like that. So now you have to love it, you have to love them, and you have to love your job. That's the second case. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I think someone is asking for the permission of speaking. I just missed who it is.
Yeah, actually, I have a question.
Sure, okay, go on. Yeah, go on, please.
Okay. First of all, I would like to thank for our lovely captains for attending to share their wisdom knowledge to us. At Pilot's Day, we really appreciate your serve to the humanity. Well, my question is, there's a saying among our professors, I'm an aeronautical engineering student, by the way. They say that the rules of the aviation are written by blood. It is such a haunting, daunting thing to say, but the purpose of this word is to show the serious part of studying or working on that field. Well, I would like to highlight the psychological part of being a pilot, because you know that the hundreds of people's lives are depending on you. Knowing that it is such a stressing thing to even think. Are your training enough to deal that kind of stress? And we all have bad days, the days we just want to lay on bed or using our blanket as a barrier to the outside, or simply being depressed. Are they allowing you to work if you feel depressed or feel low? And yeah, that's my question.
So basically, Akın, you are asking about the psychological part, because it's a hard job. They fly night and day, and the time always changes, the climate always changes, and this is what you are asking, right? So who would like to answer this question?
We are all good. Psychologically, we are good, yes. Yeah, because I think, I don't know, in the civilian life or something like that, if you are not flying, but every year we are attending some test or something like that sometimes. But as an aviation, we are two in the cockpit. So if one of them is a psychological problem, the other one is good. Yeah, it's no problem about this one.
Yeah, I think Akın, I'm going to answer you. I mean, in my training university, we always had this card in the entrance of briefing rooms, like, are you first fit? We will ask if we were fit mentally, physically. and you had to respond yourself. So if you were not fit, we were able to cancel our flight, our training, because it's very important. Because if you go with not enough sleep, if you go very stressed, I mean, your reaction in different kind of emergency cases it's very different compared to when you are fit. And yeah, as you mentioned, that the aviation rules are written in blood, and that's true actually. You know, like for example, the Air France accident over the Atlantic, and then that accident made, for example, EASA make a new training for advanced UPRT. So every law, I mean, every new regulation is written on blood. So every accident that happens brings some new regulations, new trainings, and that's the reason why most of the aviation laws are written in blood.
Thanks for that.
And Claudio,
If I can add.
yeah.
Just to address on one of the questions he raised on top of what my colleagues have said. You said you raised your question regarding our training and how well we can cope with the stress and whether if the training was helping us or not. As pilots, we are trained very differently. For example, if you go to a driving school, you're taught about the car, how to change your gears, how to accelerate, stop, park, etc. We do the same thing for airplanes, but then the majority part of our training goes into what if something goes wrong. So if you go to a typical simulator session that we do every 6 months, we are trained to think about all the possible things that can go wrong. So if you go into a training, you lose an engine, there's fire somewhere, there's a problem someplace else. So even on our day-to-day flight, on a normal flight with no events, when we're going from point A to point B, we're continuously told to think about options, option B, alternates, what if something happens here? What am I going to land? What if something happens here? What am I going to do? So the mindset of a pilot is really made different through the training. So if you're trained that way, it doesn't add to your stress, but it just eventually makes you fit enough to be responsible for whatever comes along. And the other point I wanted to mention to you was you said just the weight of thinking that you're transporting a number of people, be it 50 or 100 or 400. You're responsible for that, for the airplane, for your crew, for your cargo, and remember that you're responsible for yourself as well. So that doesn't usually add a weight on you because my colleagues can share their thoughts on this, but when you go into the cockpit and, for example, when you're doing the takeoff or the landing, you're so concentrated on manipulating your machine, it doesn't really matter whether you have
Captain Negede, can you hear us? We cannot hear you, sir. I think the connection is broken. I cannot hear Captain Negede. Can you hear? Can you hear him?
No, not yet.
I think I was disconnected.
Yes, you are back now, sir. We can hear you.
I'm back. Okay. So that doesn't really actually cause an extra stress on you. But like I said, it depends on the way you personally look at things. For example, everybody knows flying is safer than driving a car. It's safer than traveling by train because if you see the accident rates, it's the safest mode of transport. So if you're really worried about what could go wrong without having enough training and the justifications for that, man, you might as well not get out of your house. But with the right mindset and with the right set of training and tools, you're built as a pilot. So we pilots, there are two things I usually tell other people. the different mindset for pilots is, one, we're always trained like this. What if things go wrong, and we have to have a plan B, plan C, and plan D. The other thing is we're very much manual oriented. So most pilots, they don't just buy an iron from a store and go home and just plug it. We have a tendency to read the manuals for everything. So this is just the way pilots are built. I just wanted to add that on top of what my colleagues said. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Just if I can add, well, just one thing. It's true, 100%. If I was to say, when I land, 737 or whatever, I never think about the people behind me, because as Captain Negede said correctly, you are there on the airplane. Okay, so it doesn't, for you as a person, if you want to put it on a psychological point of view, it doesn't really matter if there is only you or another 20 people, 200 people, because it's still your life in stake. So you don't really think about, you just think about flying. And the training as well makes the whole of it. So you trust somehow the fact that if you are put there, if you are in that seat, then you are actually ready for your job. And yes, there is an emphasis and focus on this psychological part. Many airlines, they have the peer support program, which is something which is really useful, because you get to talk and you get to, if you have problems, psychological problem, you can always ask. You get removed from the roster, no punishment, no blame, and then you get to talk not with a doctor necessarily, but you get to talk with a peer. So somebody who actually is like you, okay, doesn't judge you. He is like you, so he knows what you go through, because we are all people at the end, persons and people that they have feelings. So again, this is something that airlines are really focused on. This is what I wanted to say. So,
sir, you have a peer support program, as far as I understood, right?
Yeah.
Peer support program, And I wonder, Ethiopian Airlines and the other airlines, do they have this kind of program? This is what I'm going to ask you. And people, Negede captains have, hundreds and hundreds accidents on the ground, but people never forget about a crash like Germanwings. So we have experience in the aviation world, and they think pilots are, it's a high percentage pilots have this kind of problem, but it's not, right? And so it's only one bad experience about pilot who had some problem and he just hit the aircraft on the mountain, but still we have a solution in aviation, which is peer support program. Yeah. Negede captain and Kivanc captain, do you have this kind of program in your airlines?
Of course. Before joining the aviation life, you have to take some tests, about psychological tests, and you have to pass them. And these are really, how can I explain, very complex tests. And you have to answer some kinds of questions, either yes or no or A, B, C. It's I am totally agree, something like that. And these are the really aviation experts, psychologists. They are getting this one. It is not the easy things. Okay, you want to be pilot? Give me $100,000. Now you are a pilot. Not like that. You have to enter some tests. and you have to join some classes for this one. Even if the Ethiopian Airlines are the same, you have to pass some tests before psychological test before attending to Ethiopian Airlines. In every company is the same, but firstly you have to pass correctly and from the first level of test before attending to aviation life. As you know, Ms. Habibe, maybe you join some kinds of test, but everybody is thinking about that the crashing of this aircraft is once in every 20 or 30 years, but you are not thinking about the crazy drivers in the traffic. Yes, in Istanbul now I'm coming to hear everybody swearing, something like that, hitting each other. In India is the same. They are hitting each other and they are swearing. But aviation nowadays is very popular way of traveling, popular way of tourism. And if something's happened in aviation, everybody is thinking about that, the psychological problems of the captains or the first officers or the cabin crew. But believe me, Akın, I think asking about that, is there any psychological test or something joining aviation? Yes, we have to take some psychological test and we have to pass 100% from them. And every year we are getting, and we are joining every 6 months in the simulator training. And they are also the instructors, so SFIs are measuring our abilities. Also, in Ethiopian Airlines, now within the 6 months, also they are measuring our attitudes towards the passengers in the simulator, towards to the failures. If you are panic or something like that, you are failing the simulator. If you do not fail in the simulator, yes, you can easily fly. Otherwise, no chance for you. No second chance.
Yeah, on top of that, regarding the peer support group, not just from the airlines part, from the professional associations such as IFALPA, the International Federation of Airline Pilots Association, you can get a lot of tools that are helpful. So those are available to be utilized as well. I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you very much, sir. Dardan Captain, I want to ask you a question and changing topic at the same time. And, getting experience is for the, graduate pilot is a problem in Turkey. And, airlines just announce their, if they look for the pilots, they announce that they are looking for experienced pilots. So how can the young pilots get over this problem, or do you have this kind of problem in your career at the moment?
Yeah, I would say it's the same issue I'm facing as well. For example, the aviation is it's an expensive industry, and for every training you need to pay a lot, even for instructor training or something. And it's sort of a business, everyone tries to earn, all the aviation schools, etc. Also airlines, the main issue is to earn as much as they can. So the reason is that most of the airlines are looking into experienced people because it's less financial issues with these people that have experience compared to the people that are inexperienced, because they need to pay extra for the type rating, for other training, etc. So yeah, I have the same situation. Regarding the flight hours, and it's hard because finding the right school to build the hours, trying to find the right company. What I would advise most of the students, it's to check out the cadet programs from the airlines, like the Captain Negede mentioned. These are very good programs. For example, also our company has cadet program, which after you graduate the pilot training, you have a chance to go directly as an airline pilot and then continue building hours. Other than that, I know that there are also flight schools, and actually now for our company is a huge need of pilots. Every day I I have an issue because I need to check the reports every morning regarding the first wave's flight. And every day we have issues with lack of flight crew. So I think there is a huge need after the COVID pandemic of the pilots, but and it's going to be hopefully soon very well for all the new pilots. But they should focus themselves on cadet programs from the airlines and also check flight schools that sponsor the flight instructor course so they can build hours. That's my advice. Otherwise, spending too much money to build hours it's nonsense. So yeah.
Thank you. They have already spent so much money and, getting experience, and again, spending money on that. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. You're right. I think Berkay wants to say something. Berkay, you can go.
Yes, Miss. Sorry for the interruption. Dear guests, the students, you must fill the form in order to get your certificate of participation. You may find the form link at the comment section. Thank you again.
Okay. Thank you, Berkay. Yes, sir. Isse, you can go.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Habibe, and good evening. Happy Valentine's Day at the beginning. My question to you is general to all pilots here, and I would love to know, how do they deal with fatigue? Is it how do you deal with late overtime? How do you, it's not always a different job. There's also side effects. So I just want to know how you deal with that one.
Okay, Kivanc Captain, we shall start with you, sir.
Yeah, I wasn't fatigued though, that's why it's okay. Fatigue, you are right. On summer times, yes, everybody's going to holiday, that's why we are affecting fatigue. So what am I doing? Before going to the night flight, I have to sleep as well. As well means I'm not sleeping almost 8 hours or something like that. But before the flights, 2 hours ago we had to be in the office. So 2 or 30 minutes ago, I was planning to go from my house or the hotel or wherever you want. And then, so 2 or 30 minutes ago, and then plus 30 minutes, 3 hours ago, I had to wake up. Because I had to wake up, I had to shave, take a shower or something like that, blah, 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 to get eating something. And then minus 3 hours, minimum 6 hours ago, before takeoff, I am sleeping. With all curtains are closed and no voice, like night time or something like that. Otherwise, especially for the night flights, you are a little bit confused about this one and you are a little bit tired. But also we are well trained about this one because we are two pilots in the cockpit and we have some taking naps. It's almost between 10 or 20 minutes. If you get a little bit 10 or 20 minutes nap, it's enough for you. It's almost 3 hours. This is the also it's equal to your morning time sleep or something like that. The psychologist says that. Otherwise, and then when you come back from the night flight, and I'm going directly to my hotel and take a shower again, and then sleep again for almost 5 or 6 hours. It depends on your ending time of your flight or something like that. For example, if you are over 7 a.m. and almost 8 or 8:30 a.m. you are in the hotel, take a shower 9 a.m. and the minimum 5-hour rest. But it's resembling the night times in your room. Close all the curtains and like a daylight, nightlight sleep. And then, so that's why maybe half an hour ago I said that. Yes, pilot is not the money or going to the countries. Yes, these kind of things. And you have to know these kind of things, and you have to know how to handle up this one. But in the pilot training schools, the instructors, also in your line training, in your simulator training, on your ground school training, you have to learn these kind of things instead of how to fly or how to handle these kind of things. Okay, and you have to learn you are learning these kind of things in your pilot schools. That's the other option of this one. And you have to encounter and you have to learn this kind of especially for fatigue and then night flights, long flights, and these kind of things. And there are some lessons about this one. The psychological lessons. Nothing is simple in the aviation. Nothing is simple in the aviation. And other things, and I couldn't remember. You can also find your solutions, because you have to do it. Because if you want to fly it, and you have to know, and you have to find these kind of things. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I would like just to add. I would like just to add that ESA, for example, I would like to talk for the European regulation. EASA has put so many different rules, that limit your working hours to make your fatigue less. So pilots have a minimum rest time, so minimum working hours. So I think also other aviation regulation, like in Africa or United States, they have a fixed one to release this effect. So don't worry about that. Most of the pilots are safe and they go through this kind of regulations.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, sir. Negede, Captain, would you like to add something?
Yeah, sure. Like my colleagues say, you'll have to find a fix that's going to be good enough for you, because at the end of the day, the regulations set by the FAA, the EASA, the recommendations by ICAO, these are all trying to give you a framework for you to fit in that. For example, if a regulation says you have to get 10 hours of sleep, that's just the regulation. So within those 10 hours, sometimes before you go on a night flight, it's not like a light switch. You can't just go to sleep for a couple of hours and wake up, because it's hard. So it depends on a lot of different factors. So within that regulation framework, and now IATA is pushing other airlines to adopt the fatigue risk management system, the FRMS, which is also going to give pilots and other operators more chance so that they can find their own fit. And in order to manage your fatigue, it's not just rest. As a pilot, you need to be able to do your rest properly. You need to be able to exercise, because the fatigue takes its toll on top of the stress and every other thing, on the time zone change, and all on depending on how and where you fly, whether you're doing a night flight or a day flight. For example, let's say you're doing a day flight from morning to night, then you go home, you sleep at night, and the next day you're up and fresh. But if you're doing a night flight, an all-nighter, you're going to spend at least the previous afternoon sleeping. You're going to fly the next the night, and then when you come back in the morning, you can't ration your sleep time, so you're going to feel tired and you're going to sleep. So just by changing what time you're flying, if it's a daytime, you're going to spend 1 day and 1 night working and sleeping. But if it's a night flight, that will have to increase, because you have to sleep earlier, and then you're going to sleep the next morning as well. So you'll have to manage your sleep and, like I said, get some exercise, and also managing your diet is also good. So that will help you cushion the physiological effects and eventually the psychological effects of the fatigue that has been put on your body.
Thank you, sir. Captain Claudio, would you like to add something?
have to say that my colleagues are been very exhaustive, and it's exactly like that. Meaning that probably from the point of view of a person who approaches the career in aviation, working in shifts is one of the most challenging parts of the whole lifestyle. This is why I call it lifestyle. It's not a job, it's a lifestyle, because it includes, alongside the skills and the knowledge that you need to develop, you have to know your own limits, your own boundaries, and how your specific. For example, this morning I woke up 3:15 a.m. and I went to Morocco. And then when I arrived, then, this is why I'm still in uniform, right? Because I was flying 3 hours ago, right? So it is important to know yourself as much as, study for your work. It's about because ultimately you going to be part of a crew, in this case, of a team of people, and they rely on you. So it's all your own ultimate responsibility to know yourself and to act accordingly, to be able to go to work as much as rested as you can. So obviously when you wake up 3:15 in the morning, as I did this morning, it's something that disrupts your own circadian rhythm, your rhythm between your wake state and your rest state. So you have to know that the day before. And this again comes to the part that Captain Negede said before about the preparation. This is integral part of the preparation, knowing that the day after you possibly going to be tired. So, as Captain Kivanc said, you make sure you set up a routine that help you, but it's a factor that has to be in your mind before flying. Is one of the factors that affect the flight effectively, and this is you learn with experience. So this is why the more experience you get, the more you get to know yourself. So this is the only thing I wanted to add.
Thank you, sir. And I think Akın wants to ask another question. Akın,
yeah. Well, my question is, we mentioned that there has been occurred a lot of aviation incidents, and not just incidents, sadly, there has been some hijacks situation. And I would like to ask aftermath of those kind of incidents or disasters, more likely. Are airline companies facing some sort of public backlashes, and does it affect economically the companies, and what are the measures they're taking to earn people's trust and make things right?
Okay, Negede Captain, would you like to answer this question? Shall I start with you?
Okay, sure. Yes, thank you, Akin. That's a very good question. It's very obvious on the aftermath of any kind of incident or accident. Airlines are the first ones to take the responsibility and the blame or the backlash, as you say, and that's going to eventually reflect on their economic performance. So I can talk about a case in point since I was in Ethiopian Airlines where the Boeing 737 MAX accident happened. That was the second Boeing 737 tragic accident after the Lion Air one. So because of that, the 737 MAX had to be grounded, and Ethiopian Airlines grounded it, and most other airlines followed through, and eventually the entire fleet was grounded all over the world. And that cost the company a lot of money, and of course other companies as well. But up until the investigation was finalized and other outcomes of the investigation were revealed to the public, it has somehow decreased the publics in general, not only on Ethiopian Airlines, but all over the world. Even here in the US, a lot of people were saying that they would not fly the 737 MAX ever again. Okay, so the effect, it just transpires not only on the company, on the airline, but also on the manufacturer or anything that's relatively mentioned mostly on the media. So, for example, if the media were talking about pilot error and suggesting that that was strictly pilot error, well, the public gets their information from the pilots, so that's going to reflect only on the airline only. If the media talks about a manufacturing error, that will affect the manufacturer as well, but eventually it's going to affect the airlines because the airlines are going to be flying the airplane, not the manufacturers. And it depends on the narrative on the media and on the narrative out there, the information out there for the wider public to be affected. I just want to mention one more thing in relation to this. In light of accidents or incidents such as this one, the effect is seen on the pilot body, the cabin crews, and the flying public in general. For example, when the Boeing 737 MAX accident happened, the Airline Pilot Association of Ethiopia, which I was a member of, we managed to have many get-togethers for crew members to grieve out, to talk about what they actually felt. And at some point, we even had invited some psychologists and psychiatrists to give a public lecture on how to deal with grief and the aftermath of such accidents and incidents. I am aware, I'm not allowed to say here, but I am aware of companies major companies who hire people to intentionally take out bad information about their companies from different websites, from social media, etc., because they understand the effect it has on the wider public. And we'll have to remember, we as aviation professionals, we're here because we love the job and we're here to do it. But at the end of the day, the main goal of the airlines is to make money and to profit from that. If the airline doesn't profit, we don't have a job. I hope I've answered your question, but if you have a follow-up or if there is any point that I haven't touched, feel free to let me know.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Negede Captain. I want to say something at this point. I had a research last year in November, and I asked, I think 50 people. I don't remember the exact number at the moment. I interviewed them and I asked them about the Boeing MAX and if they trust the manufacturers or if they trust the airlines which they use the Boeing MAX at that time. And my result is actually they lose some trust Boeing. And they didn't lose any trust to airlines. They think, for example, if Turkish Airlines let this aircraft fly, then it is safe. That means it is safe. And manufacturer lost a lot of trust about these mistakes. And when I researched about Boeing, after Boeing MAX accidents, actually they announced every step they were taking at that point. I mean, how they were improving the mistake on that aircraft in the cockpit we are talking about. And yeah, it affects actually airlines, but manufacturers get this kind of effect if they have mistakes in the accidents. Thank you, Negede Captain.
Thank you.
And would you like to add something, Captain Kivanc, for the question?
I am totally agree with my colleague. He told about everything that. Think about that. This toy, Boeing 737 MAX, Airbus, or something like that, is not a cheap one. You are losing almost minimum $350 million from your fleet. Not even maybe it's the rental aircraft or something like that, but Captain Negede said very important things. Maybe you can lose aircraft, maybe you can lose some things that is in on-ground vehicle or something like that, but if you lose trust, so it's totally bankrupted. So that's why it was a very big problem, especially for the MAX, for the Boeing. Also, Boeing lost very huge money. And also, instead of this one, many people lost their jobs. Even if many people lost their jobs, all my colleagues lost because of the MAX tragedy in China also. They lost many people their jobs in China because still MAX is not flying in China. So if you are thinking about this kind of things, especially for the aviation, because we don't have any wings. So that's why we are flying with an aircraft. We have legs, we have arms or something like that. We can walk or we can hug somebody, but we cannot fly. That's why if you lose some trust or dependency to the aviation, so it's very hard to get it again. So that's why media is very important role about this one. So as Captain Negede said before, if they say, the media says that this is the only problem about coming from the captains or the first officers or even if the cabin or something like that, so it's also very hard to get all aviation to get trust to flying people, even if the captains or the first officers. But the aviation found that this is the MAX problem. So that's only the part of the aviation. Many people lose their trust about the Boeing or the MAX flights. Not the captains, not the first officers, not the other people that are flying. Yes, many people lost their jobs. Many people lost many monies about this one. It's the normal things. But nowadays, day by day, after the Corona especially, I think within the 2 or 3 years, aviation, the most powerful part of the economy, I think. So I can go through the aviation. It's a very good job opportunity for you. But firstly, you have to love it. Yeah, that's why. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Captain Dardan, would you like to say something at this point?
No, I think it's everything explained by the colleagues. So I mean, I don't have anything else to add. So
thank you, sir. Claudio, Captain, would you like to add something?
Just a couple of items. When something happens in aviation, especially something serious, you have 2 levels. And they normally are parallel, right? So you have the media level, as Captain Negede mentioned, and the media tend to. This is also why our job is delicate, because an aircraft accident being rare, and being the fact that nobody normally survives a crash, right? So it's very mediatic event. Okay. So the media tend to have a certain approach to the event and tend to over dramatize. Not over, but dramatize. Okay, and normally the very first. If you guys remember the German wing accident, that the day that the A320 took off from Barcelona to, I think, was Frankfurt. That day, I'm not joking, my aircraft, I was a cabin crew in Barcelona that day, and we were parked just next to that aircraft. Okay, so they took off and then they crashed in the mountains, as you might remember. Now, what happened to the media? The media, what did they do? They went straight up after the pilot, okay, and then they investigate every single fiber of the guy. Okay, so normally the trust that an airline builds takes maybe 30 years, or in case of German Wings, not even that many, but you can build your trust in 30 years. And then when something like that happens, with these shady details that happen in the cockpit that day, whatever, we still don't have a full picture of what happened. So in one day, the airline loses everything. In fact, German Wings bankrupt straight after. Right? So you have these two levels. One is the media that can destroy people's life, can destroy companies which they have to make money to give us jobs, hopefully. And then you have the other level, which is normally the one that I care the most and the one I am more involved, is the fact that aviation professionals then go through the official reports, and then they take precious lessons from what happened. So it's also important. So on one hand, you have a complete, disaster in terms of money, in terms of trust from the general public, and then you have to have the other level, which is something that we have to really, for us, is very, very important. So it's important when we are professional, we have to get through the drama. I don't know if I'm clear in this. We have to go through that and see what really happened through official reports. So we have to go a little bit beyond what the media say.
Yeah, media has the power, a big power, and they can reach the millions of people in this at the same time. And aviation is international job, international business. So, when you carry people on that aircraft, you have different, you have people from different countries, and they get attention easily, and they use this attention, right? Then they use the aviation to make money, as you said, Claudia, Captain. Thank you very much. And thank you for the nice question. Very good question, Akın. Thank you very much. We have been talking about for minutes and minutes. Thank you very much. Now I want to ask a question to Captain Negede, which is, today, the aircraft is just getting more advanced, which means we are actually phasing the automation in the cockpit. So how do you expect the effects of the automatization, towards the crew resource management and human factor?
Thank you, Dr. Again, that's a very good question. Like you said, I'm currently flying the Airbus 350. That is the latest, technologically latest part from Airbus. And also fortunate enough to fly the 787 when it first came out. Again, the industry top line standard for the Boeing. So I have a pretty good idea of what those machines can do. And it's really simply amazing. So to share here with my pilot colleagues, just to give you an idea of what we have on the Airbus, I want to use one system of it, which is it's got a system called auto emergency descent on the 350. So what it does is, as pilots, there are a lot of procedures that we do if there's something wrong with the pressurization system. And for example, if there's a sudden drop in the pressurization system, there are things that we do, a number of things that we'll have to know by heart, and we'll have to do in a timely manner as well. So on the Airbus 350, if those things are not done automatically, it gives you a warning and the aircraft does it by itself. So what it does is it gives oxygen to the passengers. It sets emergency codes on the transponder for ATC to know that it's making a descent. it starts its descent, it goes down immediately. This is all auto with no pilot input. It goes down immediately. It checks whether there's terrain around it so that it can stay above the terrain. If not, it goes down to 10,000 feet. Not just 10,000 feet, it compensates for altitude difference in pressure, temperature, etc. And during the descent, if it comes in proximity to another airplane, it does what we call the traffic collision avoidance maneuver. It does it, but on its own, it recovers, it continues its descent, and levels off at a safe altitude. Now, for me, this is something out of the ordinary. This is a job that simplifies a lot of things. So these machines, same thing on the 787. I can recite some other systems that are really done well with automation. So the way things are going is the automation is taking over a lot of the pilot load, and it's doing it, I can say, on some things even in a much better way. When it comes to CRM, the problem with automation that I see is when something is really getting automated, it gives a chance for the pilots to be complacent. Okay, simple example would be before the mobile phone was here a long time ago, a lot of people used to memorize a lot of phone numbers by heart. So now you don't even think twice about memorizing it. Is it a bad thing? Well, not so much. But if you lose your phone and if you want to call somebody, maybe you see that's when the trouble comes in. So with automation, I don't remember the country, but I read it in a book once. One country decided to change their driving. They were a right-handed country and they wanted to change it into a left-handed one. So people complained that if we suddenly change it, accident rates are going to go up and all. But they eventually changed it. And guess what? The accident rates went way down in opposite direction from what people expected. Then they studied it. And what happened was, because that way of driving was sort of new for the people who are driving, they were paying more attention to it. Okay? So when something gets more automated, it leads to us to be more complacent. So that's when the CRM factor kicks in, because in the modern airplanes, the CRM factor usually revolves around mostly about checking and cross-checking. Okay, so when things are more automated, I think the CRM should grow again in an equivalent way to have more checks and more cross-checks that goes with the technology label. The other thing that it goes in line with the automation is, I think this is my personal belief, and it's inevitable, but will probably eventually go into a one-person cockpit. So we've seen a four-person cockpit. We've seen cockpits with second officers, with flight engineers. Now we're currently at two-cockpit office. We'll eventually go, I believe we'll eventually, I don't know when, but we'll eventually go to a one-person cockpit. So Airbus is already starting tests with the big airplane, with 350. They're starting tests with autonomous taxi and takeoff. Autolands have been around for a very long time. Communication is going with CPDLC and data link, etc. Voice communication is going down. So eventually it would be much easier for a one-pilot cockpit. So when we think about that, most automated airplanes, their CRM is being driven into a direction of, instead of the live-wire and live-wire connection, it's going into the human-computer interaction or the human and the hardware interaction only. So in my opinion, when there's more automation, there are going to be two things regarding CRM. One, the CRM has to evolve to fit the checking and the cross-checking and the monitoring. The other one is it will be more oriented towards the human-computer interaction. And I would love to hear what my colleagues have to say as well. Thank you.
Thank you. So do I. So, Captain Claudia, what would you like to say about this question about automation and CRM relationship? Sir, we cannot hear you. I think your audio is off. Yeah, it's on now.
Me?
Yeah, we can hear you, sir.
Again, impossible to disagree with Captain Negede on what he said about the automation. Automation should, a pilot should always know that for as much as automation is there, you are in control, not the autopilot. Okay, so it has to, so you get to a complacency point in which you think you can rely 100%, and that's when disaster happen. So automation doesn't mean perfection, doesn't mean the pilots is still needed. Now, about the one pilot cockpit, I have a paradoxical, question about this. So say that the aircraft are one pilot, okay? Now, who would you choose to be the one pilot? Obviously, the natural answer would be to choose somebody very experienced, correct? So like an experienced captain. But an experienced captain nowadays is somebody who has flown 20, 30,000 hours in two people in the cockpit. So they are possibly the worst people to be able to stay in a one environment.
Can you hear Claudio, Captain, or it is only me who cannot hear?
I think he's stuck. His connection is freezing.
Thank you, Captain Negede. Negede, Captain, we cannot hear you.
Now, yes?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yeah. Sorry, the connection was lost. So, as a provocation to my colleagues, I would say the pilot that is more used to fly so who is the perfect pilot? I'm not saying that being a single pilot is a good or a bad thing, okay? I don't know. Because again, as Captain Negede just, said, not good nor bad per se, okay, is something that eventually will come. So who is going to be the perfect pilot for that? This is my question now to my colleagues, eventually.
I'm sure you guys are aware of it, but there's a joke going around in the aviation community about Boeing manufacturing the Boeing 797, but it won't need two pilots. It just needs a pilot and a dog. And the pilot is going to sit there to make sure that the dog doesn't touch anything, and the dog is going to sit there to make sure the pilot doesn't touch anything. So I don't know your answer, sorry.
Love it, thank you.
Yeah. But you see the paradox here, yeah? So if tomorrow, say, an airplane will be able to fly with one person, the experienced people that would naturally be the one elected to fly as a single pilot are paradoxically the one less fit in the sense of CRM, in the sense of teamwork. You know what I mean? So I'm flying with expert captains who are very, very good in managing my work as well, right? So I imagine these people very good in what they do, now have to deal with a single pilot operation, which is something I normally do when I fly my Cessna. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand your question. It's going to be a rough transition, the most difficult one, in my opinion, but I honestly don't know who would do that. Personally, I believe it's coming, but I would rather stick to the two-pilot cockpit. That's my personal opinion. But I think it's eventually going to be a one-cockpit one.
I don't think it's I don't know, probably the general public will be the one mostly not trusting, because if as a passenger, I'm going to say this, I would rather trust 0 pilots rather than 1 pilot, especially because, again, then you depend on one only. As Captain Kivanc said before, if you have, say we have a psychological problem or you're tired, you know that you're going to have a colleague on which you can rely. Now, as a passenger, I don't know exactly, but as a pilot, I know that day it happened to me. Say, look, Captain, today I'm really tired. Please keep an eye on me. You know, and we know we treat it as a threat. And I had the same from some captain. They said, this is my day 5 on our list. I'm very tired. So, you know, let's work closely. And that's a very good thing, right? But as a single pilot, you know, question arises. But anyway, I think it's coming as well.
Airlines' second cost is, your cost, guys. So they are actually, sorry. So the first cost is fuel. The second cost, of course, workforce cost, and that's why they are trying to reduce this cost, and they cannot, play with the full cost much, but they are playing with the employee cost, and it's a problem. But I want to hear from Captain Dardan. If you finish, Captain Claudio.
Regarding automatization, I mean, as Captain Negede mentioned, most of us remember only our phone number. I don't remember other people's phone number because it's not something repetitive. So, no one repeats to you your colleague's phone number. So this automatization is making pilots from being involved in operating the aircraft to monitoring the aircraft. So, like, for example, pilots that are flying with out of throttle engaged, and then suddenly happen a malfunction or whatever, they are not monitoring anymore the speed indication, which can make a startle effect for pilots, and they don't know how to react after the situation appears. So what automatization is doing, is reducing the capacity of pilots to do a manual operating of the aircraft and the real feel of the aircraft. But there are airlines, I don't know, I'm talking for our airlines, Wizz Air. So we are having this kind of training every 6 months or a year for our pilots to have a manual feeling of the aircraft, how to operate. But I guess also other airlines, they have this training. So I think automatization is going in a level, but we still have to have a specific training to keep the manual feeling for the airplane.
Thank you, sir. Kivanc Kaptanım, would you like to say something?
Just I want to add a couple of things. Because of automatization, we are flying over 2 hours flights. Because if we have no automation, then we cannot fly maybe 1 hour 30 minutes or something like that. That's why we are flying from Chicago to Singapore to Europe or something like that. Because nobody can fly it's over 1 hour 30 minutes without an automation. That's why. That's the one reason because automatization is very important in aviation life. The second one, now we are landing to all countries, all airports. Now, for example, in Europe, now we are landing on to all Austria airports because of automatization. And we are landing to all airports if we have Cat 3 approach or something like that with manual automatization landing mode. Otherwise, we have to go around and we cannot go to the Europe in the winter times, especially for the Norway and Sweden, because always in the bad weather conditions. So that's why now we are going to all airports in all weather conditions, not a severe thunderstorm or something like that, because of the automatization. Yes, the third part of the automatization is now also we are losing some skills because of automatization. That's why now the CRM, now we came face to face with the CRM culture. But in my opinion, I have almost 15 years front of me for the aviation life, and I don't want to see the one pilot cockpit. Yes, because if I go outside, I'm always thinking about that the first officer is okay or something like that. Can't he open the door if he sleeps or something like that? Think about that as a passenger, you are on the back. Just one pilot and you don't know what is happening inside. So if we have to fly with the one pilot cockpit, so somebody or something or some dogs has to care about this kind of people. You know, it can happen every time because we are the humankind, not we are the robots or something like that. We can sleep. We can do something other else or something like that. Think about that, 6 hours without, we have nobody near you and you are flying at night conditions. How can you do that? I think I am the old style pilot or something like that. But I think front of me, I don't want to see this kind of conflict. If I see just one pilot cockpit, and I will not fly. Yeah, I can go by bus. Yeah, it's okay for me, or a ship or something like that. It's very hard, but somebody has to do something about that. If they want to fly, just one pilot in the cockpit. Somebody has to care of them, or something has to care of them. I don't know if it's something robots or aliens or coming like that. Every 10 minutes, are you still awake? Are you still awake? Are you still awake? And you have to do it. Or are you still hungry? Are you okay? You have to do it always. Because we are the only humankind. You have to find the solutions. Solution is that two pilots in the one cockpit. Why are they doing like that? Just instead of decreasing the money or something like that, the pilots or something like that, they have to find a solution about that, the fuel. Why are they doing the one pilot cockpit? What is the reason of one pilot cockpit? I don't know. Just because of the money of the first officer or the captain? I don't know. They can take care of the fuel or some other things about that, the airline. I don't know the reason. I have to know the reason of the one pilot cockpit. And I am asking to my colleagues also, what is the reason of the one pilot cockpit? Because of the capitalism? I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Would you like to answer Kivanc Captain's question? Why is the single pilot cockpit? Why do they try about? What do they hope actually to gain with one pilot cockpit?
Can I just say? I think there are two reasons. Okay, very quickly. One is a challenge. Okay, you know, mankind, humans, we like challenges. Like, for example, we climb the Everest just because the Everest mountain is there, not because it's, you know, just because we want. So it's a technological challenge, first. And second is the money. But not the money per se, because again, we could save on fuel. Why not? You know, we could use much more sustainable and cheap fuels. I think that's used in order to pressure on the labor market now that the market is much in favor of on the pilots due to the fact that many experienced pilots are retiring, and possibly they are fearing that they have no replacement for the generation of pilots that they have been in the industry the last 40 years. So I think this is these two main reasons, from my humble opinion. And that said, I cannot predict if it's something good or bad per se. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, flying in the air was a dream for the humankind. They tried for centuries, and they tried, and some people died for doing this. Experience is a challenge, as you said, Claudio, Captain. Would you like to add something to Captain Claudio? Why is single pilot in the cockpit?
I want to say, the human factor that we always talk about that is responsible for 70% of the accident, I think with the single pilot is exponentially increased, because 70% of the human factor is calculated on a crew of 2 people, which can, actually,
be split, yeah.
Exactly. So I think that the human factor error can only increase. So they have to build very, very, very good machines to make sure, But again,
yeah, because I don't know. We have to ask about the Elon Musk, I think, because it's coming from him. That's why. I don't know why, but I think because of everything is the robotics, They want everything is the robotics. So all the humankinds, we will go to the Mars nowadays. And in the Earth, that's only the robotics, and they can fly with them together in the Earth. That's why. Yeah, it's a crazy thing for me. Why? I don't know.
Yeah, Elon Musk is hoping, the world belongs to machine, not to humankind. We will see. So, I think you are all tired. I want to get the last questions from participants. Is there any question to our guests? Yes, Berkayan.
I would like to ask a question about the crisis management. This is about the human relations on board. For example, we all know that the CRM, crew resource management, is vital to operate in aviation. But it's a rare case, but the pilots can see the PIC doesn't obey to the CRM. So how do you get over with the ones who doesn't obey to the CRM? Or how do you get along with the ones who doesn't obey to the CRM at all?
Yes. Negede, the captain, would you like to answer the question? Shall we begin with you?
Okay, sure. That is, there are cases like that. But one thing I want to mention before I start is CRM by itself, I believe it's a format, but it's also an art and a science. So it's not like a regulation or a rule that we have to follow. So one of the things that I learned during our joint training, the cabin crew at Ethiopian Airlines, was about identifying your emotions, the emotions that you're having on yourself. When somebody has had a bad day, and for example, somebody's really pissed about something, we all have one of those days, right? Everywhere you go, things are not going the way you planned them to, and you're just complaining about the day. That has probably started somewhere because of something, and it has been adding up, and it has led to certain action. So when things are happening to us, and when we're sad, or when we're mad, or when we're acting in a certain way, the best person to identify those feelings is not ourselves, is the person right next to us. For example, like the question said, if the PIC is doing something wrong, it's usually up to the first officer, to understand that that guy is probably having something, and to cool that guy down and bring him back to earth. And the same goes for the captain or for the PIC if he notes something on the other person, on the first officer side, and if he's not acting accordingly, or if his CRM is really bad, to just cool him down and talk to him, is everything okay? And then make him realize that that person is not acting or in accordance with what's accepted to be the norm. So there is no certain rigid one way of solving such problems, because with every cultural background, with every personal background, the way you handle things is going to be different. So if at all, like if it was a regulation, you can say, you're not doing such things by the regulation. But CRM, it's like an art, okay? It's like arguing with your better half, with your wife or with your husband. There's no always one way of fixing problems. And CRM is usually communication in general is usually classified in one of the complex ways, because there was a research done between Canadian and the US universities, and they classified things as simple, complicated, and complex. So the simple one is, for example, cooking. If you get the recipe right and if you have a little bit of experience, you can be sure that you're going to make something consistently. The complicated one is like sending a rocket, like you mentioned Elon Musk. So it's going to need a lot of help from a lot of different departments and different sciences. But once you get it right, you'll most likely get it again the second time around. What they classified as complex was, their example was raising kids. What works for one kid might not work for the other. So there is no perfect solution for complex problems. So you'll have to deal with it as it comes. So it's the same thing with CRM, because that is one advantage that we have as pilots. We get to fly with different people every day. We learn from different people. We communicate with different people from different backgrounds. It's like if you're stuck at a job, at a different job, and if you don't like your boss, or if you don't like the person that's working or sitting next to you, that's going to be your everyday thing. But for pilots, it's not like that for us. Whether we love the person flying with us or we hate them, it's most likely going to be for that day, and we might not be able to see that person for a year or two. So the way we approach the CRM should be modified accordingly. That's why I keep saying it's an art, and to handle things when people are not, going accordingly, or if it's not a peaceful cockpit, we'll have to come up with different mechanisms. So that's it. I hope it answers the question.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Kivanc Kaptanım, would you like to add something?
Yeah, it's the main option, this one. We can come this kind of problems, especially for the senior captain versus the junior first officer. Junior captain versus the senior first officer. Expat captain, sometimes the regional first officer, vice versa. Yeah, but as the captain Negede says that you will fly with this one, especially for the first officers are thinking that this is maybe I will fly with him 6 months later with the other captain or something like that. But especially for the small airlines, like in Turkey, for example, in the Sun Express or Corendon Airlines in Turkey, you will fly with this one every week sometimes. So there are some reporting systems about this one. And you can sometimes call the captain, or captain calls the first officer. If you cannot negotiate, yes, after the flying, the professional one is after the flying, you can go to the headquarters and they say about something like that. There is some kind of problems, this one. So day by day, this is not 3 or 4 captains or 3 or first officers in all the company. So every captain and every first officers, there are some good relationship with each other, especially for the, because as we said before, it's 1 hour ago, we have some psychological tests. So all captains or all first officers or 50% of the captains or 50% of the first officers are not the maniac. So we have some tests, and everybody in the captains or the first officers in the some frame, between the frame, not out of the frame. Everybody is the same. Our approaches are the same. Not all the all-stars captains. We are always the same. For example, Captain Claudio says that his emotion that is a little bit, yes, let's do it together or something like that. And I am, yes, easy boy, easy or something like that. We can reach each other. But we are all the same, not many different. The pilots and the first, or the cabin, we are always all the same, because we are chosen the same people, or you have to be the same people if you want to fly. With the psychological test, as a result of psychological test. So maybe 2 or 3 people are different. For example, in Ethiopian Airlines, Captain Negede knows these people. We know all of them. Just 2 or 3 maximum, and we are almost 500 or 600 pilots. Just 2 or 3, not 4. So now some first officers are praying that this one, I don't want to fly this 2 or 3. The others are the same, nothing changed. And these first officers are flying with the same captains, or the captains are flying with the first officers, with the same first officers, every 3 or maybe 6 months. That's all. Not a big deal, I mean, not a big deal. Otherwise, you lose your money, you lose your salary. You know? So you have to be good psychologically. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain.
Thanks, sir. Claudio, Captain, would you like to add something?
Well, as a first officer, this is my main job, to understand the mood of the captain. Yeah, so that's 90% of the day is the mood. The mood of the captain is what I know already what's gonna be.
Level change, VNAV or vertical speed. We have 3 chances. You know, if you put the level change, no, vertical speed. That's exactly,
that's exactly that. Yeah, that's 90% of my briefing in the morning is to understand how the captain is going to be. But again, it's very rare, because of what Captain Kivanc said about the selection of people. It's very rare that you have people that don't abide, because we all know that it's about our safety of our own skin to abide by at least respecting the other person. Now, the question is, what if, for example, in my seat in the right, if I see that the captain, so the person who has the major authority on the flight, doesn't abide by the CRM, then it's important. For example, I know sometimes it happens that you have some captains that they do their own way. Fine, it's fine. Now, it's about saying, okay, look, you don't argue, first of all. Okay, so you don't argue in the air. And then, so you just make sure that the other person understands that he passes some boundaries. And then we have a code, so to speak, that we need to use in case the captain is really doing something on the border of safety. We say, look, I'm not happy. So, look, would you mind if we do this way? Or maybe you would like to select this button or this other switch, or maybe would you like to set the minima, And then you go like, well, it's better if we do this way. So you say, I think we should do this way. And they don't abide. Then you say, look, I'm not happy on what happens. So then obviously, hopefully the person doesn't crash. Okay, which again shouldn't happen because of what we said. But then again, when I say I'm not happy on the speed you're keeping, then they should say, this is our code to say, hey, something is really not okay between what we're doing. But again, you don't argue. You don't start, arguing on each other work. But again, it's very rare, to be honest. Even, yeah. So the CRM is a good common ground, I have to say.
Thank you, sir. Would you like to add something, Captain Dardan?
No, I mean, also as the previous captains mentioned, I mean, the pilots mentioned, that's the meaning of the training, of the CRM training. You need to collaborate with all kind of situation, all kind of different kind of mentalities, different kind of diverse team, etc. So, I mean, all the pilots are trained to collaborate with this kind of situation. Me, myself, for example, even I don't have, I don't fly as a pilot now, as a airline pilot, but I mean, during our pilot training in the flight school, we had different kind of flight instructor, but in the end, we had to find the way of cooperation. So that's the meaning of the CRM training. So I think all the pilots are trained to deal with the different kind of situations.
Thank you, sir. And Mr. Isse, I think you have a question. We cannot hear you. Yes.
Can you hear my voice now?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Thank you, Professor. My question to you is that, is there any recommendations 1 to 2 that you can add as an aviation curious, or let us say this way, if I were age 20 years or maybe 15, I will do this way, or I will do this in better way. Anything that 1 to 2 that you can recommend to us?
Sorry, Kivanc Captain, would you like to answer the question?
I couldn't I couldn't hear the whole question. Can you ask again, Mr. Isse?
Yes, sir. Would there be any recommendations for us 1 to 2 things that you can say, I will do this, if I were back to the age 20 years, I will do this better, or I will do that in this way, or maybe I could become flight dispatcher, or maybe I could go become something else. Any advice for us as an aviation student?
For the aviation student, that's age are here 20 years old, I think. Am I right? Is there any recommendation? Yeah. If I were you, and think about that, close your eyes, that just answer this question. Why would you want to be a pilot? What was the reason? If the reason is, it's real by heart. It's the reason, if the answer is your emotions, that's the correct one. Or the others, really aviation is not for you. That's the only thing. You have to trust your emotions.
Yeah, don't do it for money.
It's very hard. Times will come. Really, believe me. Because, yes, we are getting good money. Yes, good times. We are going to the some countries. Oh, very good. And we are going to the 5-star hotels. If you are thinking about this one, you can do it every time. For example, if you can sell something and you can get good money or something like that, you can do the same things. But emotions. If the answer must be the emotions, otherwise, as I said, hard times will come. Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Isse, I think the other question is yours. Yours is, I think, would you like to change something if you go back, right? I mean, yeah. Kivanc Captain, he has another question. Would you like to change your career, or would you like to do something different if you could
No, something different, because I was in the Air Force and I was in the fighter pilots. It's almost 17 years. Somebody asking to me that maybe you can join to the civil aviation life early. No. If I was in the 20 years old, yes, the same job. Nothing changed. Nothing. I don't want nothing. I don't. Sometimes I'm going to the hotels. I see some hotel guys. It's very good touristic people. And if I come, if I am still a little bit tired or something like that, when I came back from the hotel, I see these guys. Oh, they are working in the good conditions or something like that. That's all. And 3 hours later, everything is the same. Aviation for me, nothing changed. This is for me, I think.
So you are born for this job then?
Yeah. For me, it's okay. I am okay. Yes, I am 50 years old, almost 30 years. Still, this guy is still flying. Yeah, I am still flying. Yes, and I have some instructors. It's 70, 75 years old. They are still flying in in the US, in some special or some chest or something like that. This is my lifestyle. For example, 10 days I am not flying. But 3 days later, I'm going to Sivrihisar. Maybe some of the students or some of the people knows from the Turkey. There are some special options in Sivrihisar, and I will go and fly with the Cessna again. It's still crazy. That's why. Yeah, this is for my lifestyle. I don't want to change anything. It's sad. Yeah, but if you want, you will not change.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You are so lucky to have your dream job, Kivanc Captain. So,
thank you.
Captain Negede, how would you answer this question?
Same here. I wouldn't change a thing. I mean, there are always details that you'd think if I had done this a little better, I would have had a different outcome. But generally, regarding aviation, I was really fortunate enough to join us as a pilot early. I've had wonderful years, and I wouldn't change it at all. But like Captain Kivanc said, whatever you do, I'm not saying you should be a pilot too, but whatever you do, I can't stress this enough. You really have to love it. Otherwise, flying, like my colleague said earlier, is not all glamour. You know, there will come times where it will be really difficult. You know, there is the 3 a.m. flight. The 3 a.m. flight is when you're crossing over a city, flying at, say, 37,000 feet. It's 3 a.m. You look down, everybody's sleeping. In your airplane, all the passengers are sleeping. It's dark. And you have to be wide awake. And you have to ask yourself then, what am I doing? I am a human being. I should be able to go to sleep when I want. And then when you start your family, there are going to be times when you're going to miss your kid's birthday or something important. There's always the back thought of you being in another place away from home and wondering if everything is okay back home, you know? It's not always glamorous. It's really tough. Like I said earlier, it takes a toll on your body. You have to manage that. But if you love it, if you really love it, I don't think there's anything better than doing what you love. And I'm not bragging, but I say as pilots, we get to have the best office in the whole wide world. That's it.
Thank you, sir. The success comes by loving what you are doing. Actually, it is true for everything what you are doing. Thank you. And Claudio, Captain, would you like to say something?
Yeah, very quickly. Obviously, I agree with what my colleagues previously said. So when I was about to take my course, I was a cabin crew. There was one pilot who changed, who really made me go for it, because there were many factors in my life at the time who would go against being a pilot. So he said, because I asked him, would you if you were me, would you go for the pilot course? He said, you know what? If you love it, if you like it, you should go for it. Because if you don't, even if, in the future you would be successful in any other career, you probably regret, because it's one of those things that you might regret in your future life. Now, the pilot job is still one of the few vocational jobs that has, like being a doctor, or normally people do it as a vocation, and this is really what you should go for, because it's a lifestyle, and it can be so hard that you might regret. And I would lie if at a certain point before getting a job, I would say I wouldn't have regretted the choice. So don't do it for money again, because it's still a job. Yeah. So you have to, it looks, the glamour is not there anymore. So if you do it for money, don't do it. On the other hand, if I would change, I would have changed my education on an integrated course, because I did the modular course, so the people who are studying as a pilot know the difference. So basically, the course all in ones. So you get to have your license at the end of the course, but you do all the CPL all in once. I would have done that instead of what I did as a modular, because I was part-time student. So if this is what you want to know, is what I would have changed about my education as a pilot. And then get a job in aviation as quickly as you can, because being in the airport, even as a ground staff, or for example, like me as a cabin crew, as a flight instructor, it gives you a lot of experience on how that world works, because it's really a lifestyle. It's not really a job per se. So this is what I have to say. I hope it answers.
Yes, it does. Thank you. And Dardan Captain, would you like to add something?
Okay, I'm still on my 25s, so I don't know what I should add. But I do love my job, and I think I'm created for aviation industry, because I like being strict, I like being on time, I like, the main things to succeed in aviation. So why I choose to have experience also in other related field for aviation is because, it gives me a point of view in the other side as well. Because right now, for example, I'm experiencing always pilot complaining for ground handling, ground operation issues. But, sometimes I'm able to see that it's not always the fault of the ground operations. So in this case, it gives me, hints in the future. So when I become a pilot, not to always blame our colleagues on the ground, because, from each side, there are good people doing their job. So we should always try to, as I said in the beginning, we have to acknowledge our mistakes and always accept it, because this one just makes us better, and it makes us better, and then in the future we don't make this kind of mistakes. So yeah, I'm very happy I joined the aviation industry. is something I was created for, and I really like to work with.
Thank you so much, and happy flying to you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Islam, for the good questions, nice questions, and thank you. And I think there is no question. There's no more question. So I'd like to thank our guests for the experience they share with us and the information they share with us. And thank you very much for being with us, because I know how for you the time is very valuable, and you spend your time and evening here and your day here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we wish a happy World Pilots Day to all pilots once more, and see you at the next events.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us. Have a wonderful time, and
Thank you so
good luck
much.
with everything, guys.
Have a good day.
Thank you, sir.